Hi everyone, this is Top 10 Roller Coasters at Canada's Wonderland. This is my home park, so I've been on every roller coaster many times. I think I know them all pretty well by now. So this ranking is just my opinion. There will be some pretty weird picks in here, but I'll explain everything and just my point of view. So just a bit about me. I'm pretty young and don't mind a bit of roughness, so that's why there may be some surprising picks in here. And just another thing, I do prefer some negative G's over positive. I think you'll see that in the video. So this list is just going to start off with the 7 honorable mentions, and then I will get into the top 10. So at number 17, we have Taxi Jam. This is just our kiddie coaster. There's nothing special about it. It's like a really short drop and a couple bunny hills. Obviously, I think you guys know why it's last place. It's not a bad coaster. It just has a different audience, obviously. So at number 16, we have Time Warp, the Zamperla Volaire. My least favorite actual roller coaster at the park. Mainly the restraints. They don't touch your back, and it's constantly feeling like you're about to come off and slam your back on the back of the restraints. It's just really uncomfortable. The only reason why this isn't last placed on my list is because Taxi Jam is like 10 feet tall. But even still, I would probably still ride Taxi Jam over this just because this is so uncomfortable. Number 15, we have Silver Streak. This is the Vekoma kiddie suspended coaster. There's nothing too forceful. The restraints are decent, so you don't get any head banging, but there's nothing really to it. It's a good kiddie coaster. So at number 14, we have Dragonfire, our aero looping coaster. This has a double loop and double corkscrew. It's a very unoriginal layout. It's not even too rough. What I just don't like about it is it's pretty boring. There isn't too many forces. It's not my favorite. Number 13, we have Wonder Mountain's Guardian. This, I don't even know if you'd consider it a coaster, but it does have this little part at the beginning, so it usually is. It's a decent family attraction, dark ride. Sometimes it's broken down, some of the cars, but it does have a little cool thing at the end, so it's all right. Number 12, we have Ghoster Coaster. One of my favorite roller coasters growing up as a kid. This coaster really started my love for roller coasters. It's a great kiddie wooden roller coaster that has some fun drops and fun elements. It's a great coaster for kids. Then at number 11, just barely missing our top 10, is Thunder Run, our powered mine train that goes through the iconic Wonder Mountain. This is a great family coaster. It provides some good thrills. It is pretty fast. There's great theming as it interacts with the mountain, and there's even a dragon inside. So now for the top 10. So at number 10, we have the Bat. The Bat is just a standard boomerang. Obviously, with most Vekomas, there will be a bit of headbanging. Here we'll get into the POV. So we have pretty slow incline. With the Bat, there's obviously a bit of headbanging. As I said before, I don't really mind the roughness too much. That's why this roller coaster is just barely scraping my top 10. The reason it's still in here is because it does provide some pretty good forces. I like the backward section. A lot of people find it uncomfortable. Yeah, it is uncomfortable, but I think it provides a really unique experience. So the first section is pretty standard. Just fly through the station, cobra roll, and then a vertical loop. So number 9 we have the Fly. The Fly, it's just a standard wild mouse. There isn't really too much to say about it. I think it is a slightly better wild mouse just because the trims usually don't affect it too much, so it does take those turns at a pretty fast pace. You do get some good laterals, and it is pretty cool, especially if you're a family or a younger kid who's just wanting to get into roller coasters. So we have this drop coming up. It's nothing special, but it's pretty cool and exciting for the kids. I remember being scared of this when I was younger too. And we just have the very non-original switchbacks on any wild mouse. You see they do take them at a pretty quick pace, so that is a plus side of the Fly. I think it does have a pretty cool color scheme. It is a pretty coaster to look at. Then of course after, it has some nice drops. It is a pretty smooth coaster. It's not the oldest wild mouse out there, so that's another positive. This is just barely scraping my top 10. I think you guys know why. It's a decent coaster, but it's a family coaster, not my favorites. So at number 8, we have Flight Deck. Now this pick will probably surprise many of you, as it is a Vekoma SLC. Obviously these have horrible reputations, but as I said, this is my opinion. I really don't find them too bad. It's any other Vekoma SLC. From what I've heard, it's not the roughest, it's also not the smoothest. Again, if you ride it a certain way, it's not too bad. It has some fun elements. That one I'm definitely not a fan of. This is probably my favorite part of the ride, right here into this dip. That pulls some great forces. That's my favorite part of the ride. If you keep your head back, just like the boomerang, it's really not too bad. And like I said before, I can tolerate some head banging, so this is why it's on. I understand that most people don't enjoy it. So at number 7, we have the Mighty Canadian Mindbuster. Now this wooden roller coaster, there's a lot of people who are huge fans of this ride. I really don't like it too much. Obviously it's 7th place, it's still a decent roller coaster. The only thing I really like about it is its speed. The out and back layout on a wooden roller coaster is awesome. You feel like you're flying, but I really don't get too much airtime on it. This first hill, obviously you're gonna get airtime, and then this one coming up, nothing. Like, you don't feel anything. I know the point of this ride is speed, especially that hill. I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's not terribly rough. There are some just weird potholes that'll really jar you. I think there's one coming up. I think you just saw the camera shake. This part can get a bit rough. There's those weird potholes I said earlier. Then this part, I know a lot of people like the tunnel. Personally, I find the helix just obnoxious. It's loud, obnoxious, and especially mixed with everybody's screams. I just personally don't enjoy it. I'm sure other people do. So at number 6, we have Wild Beast. Now, this one I know people are going to be surprised at. It is a very rough ride, and again, I know I keep saying it, but I really can't tolerate it. On this ride, the roughnecks really makes the ride. That's what's memorable, and I know that sounds crazy, but every time I'm on this ride, I'm laughing the whole way. It's that rough. You just have to, if you go in with an attitude of, this is bad, the ride is rough, funny, you almost have to laugh at the roughness. But despite all that, it has some air time, some rough patches. It's a crazy fast turn, quick turns, pops of airtime roller coaster. It's pretty crazy. Here's the POV. Starts off with a curved drop. It's a decent drop, rough at the bottom. Now this POV looks crazy smooth. Trust me, in real life it is not this smooth. This turnaround, a nice break from the ride, and then we get into a big rough patch, but some cool airtime, which I really enjoy, honestly. That's a pretty fun element. Some cool hand choppers. This is a rough portion, but what are you gonna do? We then get into the second part of the ride. This also has some good air time. That's probably my favorite part of the ride. Also very rough, but again, I can tolerate it and I also kind of enjoy it. It's just so rough and so crazy that you have to laugh, you have to smile. It's just that crazy of a ride. Coming into the final brake run, although I do say I really hope it gets RMC'd. So at number 5, we have Backlot Stunt Coaster. There's clones of this, nothing too original. It's fun, it's a great family coaster. It fills our launch deficit in the park. I know it's really not a great launch, but it does the job. It's fun. It's a fun family coaster. The Helix provides some decent forces. What I like about this ride, there's some cool whippy moments. Those are pretty fun. There's this really unexpected whippy moment right there. That turn and then the second turn, really whippy, pretty fun. And then of course the tunnel. Unfortunately on Wonderland there's no effects, so it goes straight into the tunnel. It'd be cool if they had the fire effects, but oh well. The tunnel, it's again pretty whippy, fun, smooth. And then of course the dive under the bridge, also pretty fun. Then into the final break room. So at number 4 we have Vortex. Vortex is another one of those pretty fast, crazy rides. There's a lovable roughness to it, not a rough ride at all. But there are some pretty jerky, even uncomfortable moments. This ride goes really well with the surrounding area. It's over the lake at some points, and of course it climbs up the iconic Wonder Mountain, and you can see the above portion to it. In my opinion, this is probably one of the better aero suspended coasters in the world. Many people consider aero suspended coasters like family rides. I think anyone who rides this one, it'll easily change their minds. It can definitely be considered a thrill ride. There's some really fun transitions and swinging moments on this ride. We'll get into the POV right now and you can find out for yourself. So it starts off on top of Wonder Mountain, just the icon of Canada's Wonderland. Get a good view of what you used to be allowed to visit. Now you can't, of course, and into the first drop. The first drop on aero suspended coasters aren't really anything special, but that's not the point of this ride. You can see all these swinging moments. There is a spot right over there that we just passed. There's another weird pothole similar to the one on Mindbuster that it just has a jerk. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's not too bad. Vortex is a really nice, it is a bit short, but it's great scenery, really fast, and it's super fun. So number 3, we have Yukon Striker, the new for 2019 roller coaster. I'm really not a huge fan about this. I mean, it's a good addition for Wonderland in my opinion, because it's the GP love it. It's just I don't really enjoy dive coasters too much. I think with many enthusiasts, I almost put Vortex and even Backlash Stunt Coaster ahead of it. But I decided I couldn't, just because there are a couple elements on here that are just too good. And despite how much I don't like dive coasters, I just had to give it credit. The drop is crazy. It's a 245-foot drop into the tunnel. That's not how high it is, but including the tunnel, at 90 degrees, and in my opinion, it is the best drop at Canada's Wonderland. Yes, better than Leviathan. I know this is the main gimmick of a dive coaster, but going from a completely still position to 90 degrees, there's just something crazy about that. That as much as enthusiasts like to hate on dive coasters, you can't ignore. It's pretty incredible. Again, this is probably one of the best dive coasters in the world. The layout is unique. It also has that awesome tunnel, which makes the drop even better. Comes into the first Immelman, nothing special. It's an Immelman, some cool hang time. Then my favorite inversion in the ride, the 0G roll. It's pretty whippy, especially if you're on the outside. Great hang time. Then into the vertical loop. This is my least favorite element on the ride. It's just not too forceful, and again, I don't like positive G's as much. And then the last final weird Immelman, also very whippy. That's a better portion of the ride. Now this second drop, in the back, you almost expect the ride to be over, so this can give a surprise. Of course, it's short, but it's still a nice moment to the ride. The final helix is completely forceless. I get why they put it. It's awesome to look at from the ground, but really not one of my favorite coasters. Number 2, we have Leviathan. This is where the controversy starts. Of course, our Giga Coaster, the tallest coaster in all of Canada, coming in at number 2. The main reason is because the number 1 coaster I just find is so awesome. Now Leviathan, I believe they put in added weight to the front of the car, which makes this thing feel even faster. It's been running incredible this season. I honestly feel it was kind of underappreciated. And then this season it's been running amazing with the extra weight, and it's just an awesome ride, of course, as any Giga coaster is. So it has a pretty fast lift hill on top of the 306-foot drop. The drop, I know I said Yukon Striker is better, but of course any Giga coaster drop is going to be incredible. The 306 feet, it feels like it's taking forever for you to reach the bottom, and it pretty much feels like a 90-degree drop. It's crazy. It's a full 4 seconds of just hanging in your seat. So this roller coaster, in my opinion, is good anywhere on the car, but to get the full experience, you have to go at the front. The front, with the wind in your face, it'll just make you cry with the wind. It's incredible. So after that turnaround, we get to the first element, the speed hill. That is probably my favorite element in all of Wonderland. It's just that good, the airtime. Then we get into that camelback, another really good floater airtime, probably the best camelback at Wonderland. We have a second turnaround, not as good, and our second speed hill, it's alright, definitely not as good as our first one. Same with the camelback, it's another great piece of airtime. And finally into the brake run. So Leviathan it feels short, but that's really just the speed that you're going at. Overall, it's an amazing roller coaster. So at number 1, you know what it is. It is Behemoth, our B&M hyper coaster. So I picked Behemoth over Leviathan just because of the airtime. It is one of the best hypercoasters in the world. The airtime is incredible. Even this season, they've been running the trims almost consistently. Even with the trims, I find the airtime incredible at the back, and that's why it is my favorite coaster. I think, in my opinion, the only downside to this coaster is you have to ride it at the back. If you get a middle seat ride, it's, as much as I hate to see it, Leviathan. Actually, I don't hate to say it because Leviathan is also awesome. But if you get a middle or front row ride on this, Leviathan is better by far any day. But once you get that back row, then the airtime really starts to kick in. This ride is pretty much all camelbacks, which is of course the best part of a hypercoaster with the floater airtime, and that's what this ride does best. So the drop, pretty much like any B&M hyper, it's pretty awesome, pretty standard. We get into our first camelback hill. This is probably the best, especially since no trims can affect it. Then our turnaround. This turnaround is actually really forceful. I definitely like it better than the turnaround in Leviathan, especially at the back. You really get whipped around and then really tugged down the final downwards part of the turnaround. Then we have, of course, more camelback hills. Amazing floater airtime, the main reason why I picked this over Leviathan. And then into the final section of the ride, we get the mid-course brake run and our double helix. The helixes, as I said, I like negative G's. I don't mind the helixes. Of course, there's some good force in it, but the main part is the airtime, of course. We have a couple more bunny hills to end off the ride. Some decent airtime, nothing amazing. And yeah, that's the ride. So thanks for watching the video. I know I had some weird picks in there, so don't go too hard on me on the comments. And make sure to comment your top 10 favorite roller coasters at Canada's Wonderland. I think it's a great park with some decent roller coasters, more quantity over quality. But over the years, our park will for sure be improving, and I can't wait for that. See ya.